We would like to convey to you an image that has appropriated itself as a result of this beautiful space which you have created, dear ones. There is a fluffy, fluffy sense of cloud work, we shall call it. Fluffy cloud work, we shall call it. This notion of clouds, of evaporations of troubles, thoughts, and feelings that may intrude in less than productive forms for your psyches. There is a way in which you may zero in on the empty space which clouds are actually constituted from. There is water, which is clear, which is completely transparent. When water coalesces in nature, you have a form, call it mist, or when it appears above your earth, it is known as a cloud. This soft, cloudy wisp billowing. You have many images in your heart memory banks as a species for the manifestation of white, clear clouds. We are not discussing storm clouds at the moment. And this idea of downy down, of softness, of pillows, of an evanescence, if you will, for the movement. These images, please use these images in your active imagination, or make that a physical manifestation in terms of comforters filled with down, fluffy, white comfort. There is an ethereal nature to this which is helpful to keep the flow of movement if you feel stuck with burdens. There is time to rest in cloud work, to rest on a pillow, thinking down feathers, to rest with a blanket, a comforter, to sit beneath the sky and take clouds into consideration. For they manifest and they disappear. They disappear and once again they manifest. This awareness will help you. In addition, the burdens that you feel may be encountered as a density, a certain congealed sense of incongruity with your own healthy being. In order to work through these denser frequencies of distress, burdens, worry, anticipations, negativity, these are not, we caution you, these are not bad. There is no judgment here, for there are times when rocks are required. Your earth is constituted by rocks. This is your home. This is your material incarnation into matter, matters. It is of significant importance. However, on your journeys, the times often come when it is important to lift and to manage your energy frequencies, to manage your encounters with energy. And in order to lift and to find the space through which you can move, flow, and operate, the rocks are necessary. However, we need to be able to flow past, observe the scenery. And this notion of clouds may be helpful for that. An offering.
Thank you. We'd like to ask a few specific questions. I'd like to ask a few specific questions, if I may.
Yes.
The first one is about our friend Sue. We
Mm,
are wondering if there's a way
mm,
to help her by sending
mm,
love and energy. Is it
mm.
simply a question of considering her and sending the love that way, or is there something more we could do?
The key word here is for you consider, consideration, to let's just spend a moment on that word which evokes a certain panoply, if you will, of feelings and emotions. The consideration which you have exerted today in your circle is heard, noted, ergo the clouds. We are appreciative, the universe, the forces, both light and dark, and all is good, both light and dark, dark and light, appreciate this consideration for Sue and for the others whom you have brought in. For by sending out these energies, you actually merge and draw others' energies into your circle.
Hmm.
And this fertility of strength, of higher frequencies is then shared. She, her energy is here. He, his energy is here. They may or may not, depending on their development, be aware of this exchange.
Hmm.
Nonetheless, it is happening. So
Hmm.
this is one level. There is another level, which is because of your materiality, because you are indeed human species, there is a level of consideration which can be exerted through a note, a phone call, a connection, a gift, something concrete, as you would say. There we have the rocks. This is concrete, and this is entirely, entirely welcomed. For that nudge, if you will, this one has been thinking of nudging of late, which we appreciate.
Hmm.
The nudge which you materialize in your three-dimensional realm is directly connected with the multi-dimensionality of the energy which flows as a direct result of that. Does this make sense?
Yes, but perhaps you could say more about it.
Mm, let's come at this from the perspective of duality, which is your métier, if you will, as humans, the bipolar nature of the world which you have chosen to incarnate into is rife with knowledge and the dynamic which enables you to understand immensely complex forces, which from one perspective are quite simple, but from another are not simple at all. And particularly when you have sunk yourselves into the dynamic, you may look at a torrent and say, oh, that's navigable. And yet, when you are submerged in that torrent, you have a very different perspective
Hmm.
about the push and play which occurs, if we may say, below the surface.
Hmm.
And so, therefore, this act of consideration, if you might think of this in both non material and material realms, in these terms, you can begin to understand the interplay between them,
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
ways in which you may give a gift. Perhaps many of you have been witness to a gift that was ill given,
Hmm.
that was not, perhaps, shall we say, presented in a way which we would describe as willful, a willful giving, an open-hearted,
Hmm.
a genuinely permeable opening onto other. That is gift giving. However, there are many who give many, many gifts and who are not at all concerned with that manifold approach. Their gift giving is done as a kind of wager, a transaction, if you will. Give and receive. And the giving is predicated upon the reception. Now, we will say this is, we do not enter into your dialogue with good and bad and judgment. However, as you ascend into your levels of awareness, you become more and more aware of the subtleties which are involved with consideration.
I just want to ask this question once more about those who are, not feeling well.
Mm.
So if we were to help someone be included, as well as Sue and Carl, would it just be a question of considering them, or is there anything else?
The ritual context, there is a space which you have created here which potentiates the consideration. You have, in other words, it's much the same as a piece of art. Oftentimes, art is framed. There is a context for that piece of art that somehow sets it apart. This is important at times. However, there are other times, for example, just simply sitting on your couch, if you will, and the thought comes in to be considerate and to think of and to meld your energies with those of another. This is a form of prayer. This is also a form of meditation, depending on traditions and approaches. However, this communion, shall we say, we enjoy the the meeting of minds, which occurs within that word, communion, communication. This is no accident that these are stacked upon one another in such a way as to indicate the power, the multiplicity of communing in communication in an open form. Rest assured, most absolutely. Not only does the receiver, if you will, appreciate that energy, we and multiple beings see and feel that energy. When your car turns on, you are not the only one to hear the engine.
Hmm.
Mm.
So we are a little bit concerned with the care of ourselves around channeling. We're not certain whether it's the case or not, but some of us have felt a little bit unwell, or I maybe should speak for myself, that when I am, I'm experiencing some physical difficulties. I don't know what these are there to teach me, but I'm wondering if they have something to do with a failure to care for myself,
Ah,
channeling after.
ah. We caution the word fail,
Yes.
failure. There is a dramatic drop. This one is seeing a crevice, a space like a valley between two mountains. This notion, we caution you in your speech. Words call. You speak of spelling words, the spells which words weave. This
Uh-huh.
is not a failure. This
Mm,
is not a failure. We circle back onto consideration, and the model which you have brought up for the consideration of others is no different from the consideration of yourselves.
mm,
This is one and the same. The world of energy is profoundly flat. There are no obstacles
mm,
within the realm of energy. And we would perhaps one exercise you might engage in is that whenever you consider the needs of others, there is an expansion of other into self.
mm,
And it is perhaps in your interest as healers, light workers, this work which you have, and we are grateful for, your calling, is to sink into the presence of self in other and other in self. Very often, as we climb into this awareness of you and your soldier, your shoulder, your body soldiering forward is to have your consideration of your soldier. We have now drawn this out into other, as there is another in you as soldier. However, in parlance, this is yourself. This is yourself. So the awareness, the call here is for you to, yes, outsource other. These are your clients, Dave. These are your colleagues. These are the men and women whom you encounter. But also, this is the self within you. And depending on your spiritual progress, there may be many selves within you. And there may be, we speak now of the parlance of shadow, you call it, of selves, of inner child, of shadow, of, there's so many psychological terms which your species has come upon. We prefer to think of it as a corner, as simply a corner which has not yet been illuminated and is waiting for illumination. So your consideration, which you exhibit towards others, is also merited towards yourself, the corners of your soul, the bottoms of your feet, the crown of your head, the edges, the curvatures of your scapula, of your rib cage. Every cell within your body heals and is engaged in healing. Every cell within your body understands healing. That is their basic nature.
Mm.
You are built to heal.
Mm.
And all of you are built to heal others.
Mm. Mm.
You could not heal others if you could not heal yourself.
Mm. Mm.
Now, when it comes to physical ailments, such as your friend Sue, she, this is a difficult notion, but at the same time that her physical ailment is manifesting, she is simultaneously healing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is a dynamic which is available on a different plane. The awareness of this dynamic must be cultivated in order to accept at the heart level. Suffering is a difficult concept. This is why you are here. You are suffering in communion with communication. You are sharing your consideration of suffering. This is a path, and it is a noble path. Not all are called to this center, if you will.
So, is there something we should do after this session or before this session or after or before one speaks to a client, for example, to sort of,
Ameliorate.
yes, or even detach a little bit from the person?
We would not use this word detach. This one has received that communication from a long story there. However, tache, the notion of touch, attach, detach, tache, the touching is important.
Mhm.
We encourage you to be conscious, whether material or non-material, for consideration inquires and requires with touch, touching the soul of another, touching the spirit. When you say, I feel touched, by that film, that book, that sentence. Touching is an integral and important, we shall say, concentric aspect of healing. The notion here is not to detach. However, for practice, we encourage detachment. For coming to know yourself and your soul definitely requires periods of isolation
Hmm.
for practice. So detachment is useful. However, when dealing with the presence of others, whether material or immaterial, detachment does not belong in this realm.
Hmm.
And it is actually, we suggest, perhaps somewhat confusing because you are caught in a, this one says whim wham, that sort of back and forth about am I present, am I not, am I protected, am I not, and that rhetorical conundrum can become a block
Hmm.
for your open centered channeling prowess. So, what we would suggest is that you are quite clear that you are available wholeheartedly for yourself and for others in a professional sense. However, your protocols before and after, and we dare say during your life, must include self practice,
Hmm.
housekeeping, if you will. Housekeeping. This is
Yes.
why your call is so demanding, for this is a 24-hour endeavor.
Yes.
We might say 28, because the depths to which you must delve on your off hours are profound.
Yes.
And we acknowledge that. We understand that. That is why we are here.
Hmm. So the physical problems that I'm experiencing in my knees and shoulder, mm,
Mm.
how would we approach this? Just as a sort of a way to learn, or is there an activity that I must do? Is this the result of something that I'm not doing correctly?
We again shy away from failure, incorrect, disconnect. We encourage you to find more helpful modalities. The processes you are encountering along the path, this is, and we speak to an elevated consciousness, the levels of physical pain, mental, spiritual, emotional, physical pain, are in your work palpable. And you are called upon to meet these levels of suffering, both within yourselves and within others, completely, with an open heart. You allow the pain as a manifestation of wholeness. This is a difficult notion. As humans, you are within duality. The pain and the pleasure mode of being is very real. And at the same time, we encourage you to approach pain as a portal for pleasure.
Hmm.
We have spoken often to this one during her ascetic practices. The level of suffering, of pain, which we beg to differ between suffering and pain. The pain of childbirth, for example. Most women who pass through that portal do not remember the pain as suffering.
Hmm.
It is simply a signpost on the way toward profound joy and union with creation. Creation is not pain-free, my child. Creation is not pain-free. However, creation is free from suffering. This is a distinction which has been made. So the appearance of pain is a call. It is a notice, if you will, sent by source.
Hmm.
It is a signpost. And if you sit with that pain and think about signpost, you may see a stop sign. You may see a toll gate. There may be a no access. There are many implications that can be derived from the signature of pain. Your task is to explore that, each and every one of you, and to sit with that pain, because that pain has something to teach you. Now, we are not encouraging masochistic behavior here. We are asking you simply to not be afraid, to approach pain as a teacher who has something to share with you about your body, about your comportment, about your energetic footprint. There are a myriad forms of communication which pain may present to you.
Hmm.
There, on the physical plane, it may be muscle pain, it may be nerve pain, it may be something which functions as with carcinoma on a cellular level. This is a place to begin. There are memories associated with pain. There are developments. Pain may have been unfolding over a long period of time, which you have simply not noticed. And the pain is asking you to notice me. Because deep within the recesses of that pain, there may be a being, a form of being, which, because the pain appears unnoticed, or as perhaps simply an obstacle, you have not had the time or the awareness to inquire into the center and what lies at the center, which may be begging loudly for you to approach. And we also want to encourage consideration. You may call this consideration. We continuously recycle back toward consideration. The consideration of this pain involves many, many levels. Is there a hot pad? Is there a bath? Is there a walk? Is there a stretching? There are rubber apparati which have been used to exercise frozen shoulder muscles. There are very concrete applications which one may adopt to come closer to exorcising. We use that word carefully and with a wry sense of humor, to exorcising that spot, out damned spot, but not without examination,
Hmm.
heartfelt examination. And this takes time. You will have to devote 10, 15, 20, 30, an hour, minutes in a day towards your consideration.
This is very helpful. Thank you.
Mm.
I want to invite anyone else to ask a question.
When we send out our healing, can we imagine it as if we are there with that
Mm.
person and
Mm.
covering them in our healing energy? Or is it more of a simple expansion of our energy to include them.
Explore this.
Hmm.
We as a collective understand the use, particularly in your world, of active imagination. This notion of a hug, has great meaning within your culture. There are actually now studies of hormonal release, which occur, as you all know, during the hug moment. We are back to touch, whether that be material or non-material. As you begin this process, it is perhaps more advantageous to imagine yourself as projecting into the space of another, using your imagination to imagine yourself in the space of another and holding, cradling. That is a beautiful, beautiful image which emotes a great deal of love that is quite potent. However, it is not required. There are others who may not need or delve into, and it's also perhaps a transient notion. You each have your own perspectives, pedigrees, if you will, your paths which have brought you here. And part of the wonder and awe of this experience is the exploration of what works for you. This is back towards yourself. If you feel better, and we feel that with your hug, with your touch of projecting yourself into the space of another, by all means, exert that superpower. It is not necessary. There may be others who do not do that and still exert a healing modality. However, we very much feel through this one's sensory template the boost of energy that comes with that sort of imagination.
Thank you.
Mm.
So to follow up, I'm sort of sending a big sort of light circle to Sue right now. I'm sending a little bit to B and a little bit to Carl, but I'm doing this because I think Sue needs it the most. So as I'm sort of sending, I can imagine her sort of surrounded by light. Is this effective?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We will share with you an image of a game. This is coming up through this one's memories of a pole in the ground and circles which you toss around the pole. And these circles are in different colors. You may imagine this from our perspective as red, white, yellow, orange, green, blue, and purple. These are the chakra, right, of the human constellation. And as you toss these rings around the self, the pole out there, this is our image. This is not yours. You choose whichever image elicits the feelings of love and care. Every one of you is different. Every one of you has a different memory bank from which to draw upon. But those circles of light, circles of colors, are very much healing, very much. For all, we would like to underscore that it is not simply that pole, if you will, at the center, which is feeling the hug of each rung, each ring, which is so carefully laid around it. But those rings are perceived by others, particularly in the energetic realms, for that is what our discussion revolves around. And each one who envisions the red, the purple, the green, the blue, they themselves are reminded of their own energy centers. Like with like, that red ignites the red, that purple reminds one of one's purple.